space of St Augustine's Kilburn, recording works by Marcin Mielczewski, another Polish composer, so this is part of our continuation of our Polish series. Mielczewski was born right at the start of the 17th century. We don't know much about him biographically, details are very scarce, but we know that he was born around about the turn, probably in the first decade of the 17th century. By 1632, he was a member of the royal capella singing for Ladislaus IV, who was successor to Sigismund III. It was Sigismund III who had brought many of the Italian musicians over to uplift the musical standards of his court. And Mielczewski was one of the beneficiaries of this. His position within the court was probably that of an instrumentalist. It tended to be the case that instrumentalists were native-born Poles and the singers tended to be Italians. So it's possible that he could have been a bassoon player or a trombonist, possibly a violinist. Jefeski was probably the most widely known of the Polish composers from the 17th century. His works disseminated beyond Poland, and this is how we know so many of his works, because they exist in manuscript form in quite a lot of different sources. Only two of his pieces were published during the 17th century, a short canon and the motet Deus in nomine tuo, which we're recording, which is for two violins and bass solo voice. Beyond that, they all exist in copies, probably not his own hand, but copies of manuscripts, and it's interesting to see quite how far his works travelled. Jefeski wrote in a wide variety of styles, as did many of his contemporaries at this time. He's writing big, opulent works for two choirs, sackbuts, two violins. It's a big, rich sound, and we see him, I think, probably at his best there. But he also writes in a style that harkens back to a previous age, doffing the cap to Palestrina. We've got polychoral writing again, but this time with instrumental accompaniment. So you can see Mielczewski taking the lessons of the Italians and enhancing it, developing it, and turning it into something which is more grand and with a new king, hoping to elevate his status and paint him in even greater grandeur. An interesting element is how he sets his text. Mielczewski isn't bound by the bar line in our modern convention, and he quite often traverses across it. Indeed, at the opening of the choral entry of Benedictio et Claritas, one of his big motets for sackbuts and violins and choir, it's a whole succession of hemiolas, about 12 of them, one after the other, which is quite extraordinary. It's kind of impossible to do it in modern notation, so you just have to find to just flow with the text and just let it run. But that's quite innovative, I think. Once again, we're finding that the music is of real quality, and that's a revelation to the players and the singers, that they are once again discovering a composer who they haven't come across before, and that this music really stands up. This is music you won't have heard before. It's been a revelation to me, the whole series, and I think if you haven't dipped your toe into the water of the Polish late Renaissance and early Baroque music, it's absolutely worth a try.